think it's a good thing you're doing, bro. I think it will help as well, like, because like some people find it hard to talk about grief, like when you lose someone close to you. So it's proper difficult. Like I wouldn't. Like I've got friends that have lost, people, mums, friends, dads, and
Yeah.
and they struggle to talk about it. So sometimes doing podcasts like this, sometimes where you can actually listen maybe to someone who's suffered something similar, maybe
Yeah.
that can help sometimes, because sometimes you haven't got to talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you haven't got to talk. Sometimes you can just listen. You can just sit and listen, and you hear a lot, and then you start to think in yourself. You'll think that relates to me.
Yeah.
Similar.
And that's why I agree, because I think with me, I'm always, it's not that I've always had like family also always said like, oh, even when my mom's alive, she's always been like, you know what, if anything's wrong, you can talk to me. And I'm not saying it's the case for like with like African parents find it hard, but sometimes it's kind of different when I don't know, it's not, some families, yeah, maybe they can like talk to their parents about different stuff, or not even different stuff, or if they feel in type of way mentally, or like they're going through something. But whereas, but with me, I've had like the help there, but I'm always sort of just like, I kind of just, maybe I'll just deal with it. I'll just kind of deal with it.
Yeah, that's
like,
how
you know what I mean?
Raised. That's how more we've been raised. Like, don't really, obviously in an African household and stuff as well. Like, don't really show as the guys. Like, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest sibling.
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. So like, we kind of taught to be strong from a young age.
Yeah,
don't really show much emotion. But over the years, and that, my mom kind of softened that. I think as I got older, my mom kind of respected the fact that I was more open about my feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you're not going to be okay with everything. Like that's
normal,
yeah. But it becomes important that you say and you let them know, like, because our parents are doing what they think is best for us at the time. So
yeah, and this is it. And I always feel like sometimes as you get older, you realize, like in like their generation, there were ways of, I'm not saying there are ways of doing things, their way of talking about things, but with them maybe there wasn't as much. I see like now we have everything at our disposal, where like if you wanna anything, maybe if you want to talk about something, there's resources. But whereas back then it wasn't really like that.
Nah.
But you know what I mean? So I kind of understand it from a point of view, like, you know what, okay, so it's not gonna, when you start tell them about, I'm having a bad mental health day, like looking at you like, what you what's all this? Because they just kind of, their way of dealing with things is just get on with things.
Get on with it, yeah.
Because I feel like even just like now, as things changed, even since COVID, yeah, where like things are just getting tougher. Like back then, because my mom had me like around like 27.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and I feel like nowadays, where like when people are having kids or getting married and stuff, it's different, because we're more thinking about, okay, right, life's kind of hard as it is. London is kind of, things are inflating, so it's like, but whereas back then, they just went with it and dealt with it, dealt with whatever comes afterwards.
True.
So I feel like with us it's kind of different, and I feel like because I'm the eldest, so I've got other siblings like on my dad's side, but for my mum, I'm like the eldest.
Okay.
So it's always been like, as the eldest, just sort of like always look after younger siblings, make sure they're cool,
make sure they're in line,
and just sort of getting with things, innit? But my mum was always drummed in, like, look, if you ever want to talk about things, or and even though she said that, I've never actually remember a time when I've had a heart to heart, or times when I've been proper affectionate. And it's weird because it's not that I can't express affection, but I think with my mum was always kind of, my way of expressing my love for her was just, okay, acts of service more.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of them are. My mum was the same as well. And then she used to spoil me, man. I won't lie, she used to spoil me. Like, first sibling, I used to get a lot of privileges.
Yeah.
Took a lot of the beatings as well because she was in her prime.
Because I always think it was always be the opposite, because I always feel like, because with me, my sister was the one, was more like, got spoiled. And I can understand it, because the younger siblings is like, it's finding it. Whereas you're the older one, you can't. So if, like, I think there was a time when my mum and sister, they went to Canada, I was like, raw, like, how come I didn't, like, but it's just, but after a while you realize, that's just what, it's fine. Maybe it's like I don't know, a mother-daughter moment. And even when you were saying about use of sport, because I always feel like this whole, when people say like mummy's boy and stuff, I feel like it gets such a bad rep and stuff. Because I always feel like it's like girls and dads and mums.
And mums and boys.
And boys, yeah. And I feel like mostly, I think growing up it's always been a thing where not that it's been taught, but you just know you always want to look out for your mum.
Of course, yeah, because you know, like they always say like no one will love you unconditionally except your mum.
Yeah, exactly.
Your mum loves you regardless, good or bad. You know, and as a young man, that's what you need sometimes. And obviously, that's why you see a lot of people. You know, they will do a lot. Like when obviously, I'm not saying when the dad's passing and stuff, it's hard. But when mum's pass, like for a guy, a lot of the time, it's really, really difficult.
You know, I'm kind of glad you said that because I've always had this. Like for me, it's always been like because when my dad passed first, he passed like 2014, and mum was the year after. So like when my dad, but yeah, it was sad. Don't get me wrong. But when my mum passed, that was like I feel like I felt that one. I did cry when my dad passed, but my mum was like, that one felt deep.
Yeah, that was at me as well.
That felt deep, and I think that's kind of. I mean, yeah, like even through doing this, I've met people who lost mums, whether siblings and just loved ones in general, innit? But I feel like losing your mum is always, I don't know, it's like it cuts. I don't know, it does cut deep, and I think for me, it's always, especially around this time of year, because it's gonna be 9 years, like the end of this month, on the 30th.
Wow.
But it's crazy, but it still feels fresh. Like, and I guess I don't know, like I don't know how I know because I know your journey is not
18 months now.
18 months.
18 months now. Today, well, not today, like a couple of days ago. So she died on the 5th. So it's been about almost just over now 18 months. So it got so quick, man. It got so quick. I can still remember it like it was yesterday, man. I mean, when she passed away, it was all like, it felt like a long holiday. That's what it felt like. It felt like she was going to be on holiday. She's just away for a bit and then she'll come back and stuff. And then obviously we had the funeral. And, you know, my uncle always told me, he said, you don't become a man until you bury your mum. I never really understood what he meant by that. But then it was like, you know, like after she died and stuff, everything just changed because, you know, like as hard as it is, life goes on. Like, you know, you step outside your house, you go into work, like things are happening, you know? So your responsibilities, your priorities, everything just changes. And, you know, like I always said, obviously my mum died of breast cancer. So it was a bit of a, you know, like, I wouldn't say like it was expected, but it was more like a thing where, okay, we could prepare for it just in case she does go, we could spend a bit more time with her, do certain things. Not that we weren't doing that already, but obviously, you know, that was tough. Like when I saw her go into the ground, that was the moment it broke me because that was the moment I knew I was like, she's not coming back now. That's it.
Yeah, do you know what? Because I want to kind of like, I feel like I'm kind of going back and forth, but just before like, I want to like get into your journey from, I guess, from start till now. And I think one thing I agree with you there as well, like it was hard seeing mum go to ground, but I think what was hard for me is actually going to see her.
Yeah.
Before, and even at that point, it's crazy because I remember telling my aunt, my mum's like younger sister, I was like, oh, I'll come with you and, you know, prepare the body. She was like, nah, chill.
Yeah.
Don't. You know what I mean? But I just thought like, and I remember the night before I was just so anxious because I remember my aunt telling me, I'll be honest with you, like, not to scare you, but the woman you're gonna see, she's gonna look different, innit? And yeah, that did scare me a bit, but I kind of felt like I just want to see her, just as I won't say closure, but I just thought it's something that I feel like I should kind of do. But so I remember when we did go, it wasn't like a lot, like wasn't there for long. Me and my sister we went to go see her in the mortuary, just maybe like a couple seconds. But yeah, I just remember just feeling just empty, and I think it was like it was a long day, but it just felt so, I don't know how to explain, like kind of scary because it's like, this is, I know, people, I know mom wasn't the first person in the whole world to die, but it's of course, when you're going through this,
you don't really experience it. Yeah, you haven't. You haven't really experienced it until you like lose someone like close to you like properly. That's when you know experience it.
Yeah, exactly. Because like for you, is this your first experience of grief? Or
I've lost friends and stuff and people that I knew, but like no one really close to me. So this is my fully first experience of grief, I'd say.
So like, and I guess, and I don't want to, I know you mentioned breast cancer, but because usually when I talk to people or guests, I don't really think it's important to like get into details of like, you know, of what they died, because that's because I know we're having a very sensitive conversation, but
of course
there's still some like privacy and
of
stuff.
Of course, definitely.
Like, I guess for you, like, just like talk me through the I guess the journey from when it happened till sort of now, not necessarily like, I know you mentioned breast cancer, but just what that journey's been like on you, like mentally and just for your family, really.
Yeah, so like obviously she passed away 18 months ago. You know, I remember the hardest thing was it happened really in the early hours of the morning. So I was all asleep and stuff, you know, and then I got a phone call from the hospital and they said I didn't answer because I was sleeping. But they left a voicemail and then I listened to the voicemail and I got a really bad feeling that, you know, something had happened, something not right. And then I got through to them and they told me she had passed. And this was about 9 o'clock in the morning. So bear in mind, my two younger sisters are back from uni. They're just sleeping. My brother's at uni. He's about to graduate and stuff, doing exams. So as soon as you get that news, the hardest part now is thinking, how do I break this to everyone else? You know, that was the part I had to do. And when I broke it to my sisters, they broke down and cried. I told my brother, I was just like, you need to come home. And he asked me what happened. And I didn't say over the phone, but I just said, you need to come home. You know, and he drove down all the way from uni. So I was just praying that he got home safe and stuff. And then he came home and he started crying. Then I had to tell all my mum's siblings, all of them live abroad. So we had to tell all of them. And it became really like overwhelming, you know, and it's really surreal. I had to, but things move so quickly, you know, before you know it, I didn't really have, at that moment in time, I was still like, I wasn't really processing what had happened because all my family had come over by the end of the week and before you know it, we were planning the funeral and everything. So I didn't really have time to sit down and grieve and, you know, like really process it. So we ended up then, you know, having the funeral and everything. Everything went smoothly and stuff. And then, yeah, like once she was put into the ground and everything, that was all that. I saw my siblings cry. Everybody was crying and stuff. And then obviously that whole scene happened. And then I think after that, for the next 3 days, I didn't sleep. That's when I really felt it. That's because obviously everyone's there at the funeral and stuff. And then as the time goes on, it gets quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. And then, you know, I just started to break down. You know, I really, really, really struggled. It got to a point where I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I just, you know, like, how do you go from coming home and seeing someone you see every day, speak to every day now to just gone like that? And like you said, I went to visit her before like she was buried and she passed away. And it was just me and my brother. My brother's 23. So it was just me and my brother. My sisters didn't want to go because they said they just didn't want to see her like that, which is completely fair enough. But it was really, really difficult. And there are good days and there are bad days. Up until now, I still cry. I'll still break down and stuff. Like the hardest thing is obviously now at home, it's just my sisters are in uni. So it's me and my brother. And if he's at work and I'm at work and I've come home, it's just you and your thoughts in the house. There's no noise. The noise that you would normally hear would be your parents shouting, oh, Jeremie, you haven't washed the plates. Or Jeremie, you haven't cleaned your room. Or you haven't done this. Or where's my food? Like, it's just quiet. And it's just literally you and your thoughts.
This is it. And I remember like what you said about, I guess when it happened and you're going through everything, the funeral, you see afterwards, like, I don't know, I felt like, because we went to Nigeria to, both my parents were buried there. So I remember just going there, everything was just, you know, you have certain formalities, you've got to do prepping for the funeral, doing bits and bobs, but I remember when everything was all said and done and we were flying back, there's like I think that's when I realized, okay, this is when the grief starts. Not when I
that's
was
when
burying
it.
it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that emptiness, and so it's like it's just you now. So everyone sort of, because in the beginning, a lot of people were coming to the house and, you know, visiting, which like fair enough. But I feel like after a while, and don't get me wrong, I don't say it to say like people should just stop.
No, of
people
course.
got lives, but you realize that the people, that it just becomes less and less and less. Some people still call me during the anniversaries or birthdays, but you realize, okay, now it's the journey starts now.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for you as well, on Ox, how was it like dealing with that? Because I say that because as you're like the eldest, so it's almost like you're having to. Well, I can't say it's almost like. I remember for me, it felt like, okay, I was so worried about my sister. I'm trying to make sure she's all right. And I remember something she said to me was like, look, I want to make sure you're all right as well. But I think again, that thing, like I said, when the older sibling, you kind of, it's innate to kind of look after your younger siblings. So like, did that I guess, did you have those sort of thoughts where, you know, you thought to yourself, okay, I'm going for this journey, but also I'm worried about, you know, your siblings as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, because I mean, mum died when I was 24. Like, that's still pretty young. But my sister lost my mum when she was 18. So obviously I'm thinking with her life is just beginning.
Yeah.
You know, so her best years, don't get me wrong, my best years are yet to come, but like, I've got two sisters, like both of them it hit hard, but the youngest one, she was like my mum's handbag. My mum would take her everywhere, you know, so she would go everywhere with my mum. So her in particular, I really worried about, because I said to myself, like, you know, like she's just a baby still. She's still 18. Like, her life is just beginning. So I paid her a bit more support. I knew my brother's strong. He's probably the one that holds us all together in a sense. And my other sister as well, she really looks after the four of us and makes sure everything's in check. But I just gave the baby a bit more attention because, you know, I felt like she would need it. But she's really strong.
Yeah.
And I think the three of them, I couldn't be any, we're all really close in age. So we're all really close. So it's more of a thing where they took a lot of pressure off my shoulders as well, because it gets overwhelming, you know, before you know it, you have to deal with the house, then you have to deal with all the other bills, then you have to deal with certain family members calling and asking all these questions. And my siblings picked up a lot of the slack as well. They knew my plate was full and they saw how hard it was for me, and they jumped in and helped out. So, you know, I thank God every day for their lives, because, you know, I don't know what I would have done if I was an only child. It would have been even more difficult to process, but I think the reason why I get my strength is because of them. You know, they motivate me to keep going. And, you know, I tell them all the time, I'll have bad days and I'll have good days, but they'll tell me to, you know, they'll help me out. They'll always help me out. And that's something that I really value, because there's no shame in that. I kind of, after my mom's passing, it kind of taught me, like, there's no shame in asking for help, or there's no shame in saying, if you're not okay, there's no shame in saying that. It doesn't make you any less of a man to say, like, you're struggling and you're not okay. And my siblings respected that massively, and they asked me, how am I struggling, whether it was financially, mentally, what is it? And then they would do their best to step in and help me out. So that's something that I say is really, really, really valuable and really important. So
yeah, I know that's lovely to hear, because it's hearing you share this and just talk about your story. It reminds me of so much how much like siblings are, because siblings are so important. Obviously, we know that, but I feel like in a sense where like life can be life, but your siblings are always going to be that person no matter what.
Oh yeah.
Like me and my sister. I mean, yeah, we're close. I may not speak to every day, but I'm always going to have.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Like for me, so and we're not even we're like 2 years apart, but yeah, because I still have to remind myself. Yeah, we're 2 years apart. She's not a baby, but for me, it's always like I'm always gonna have that kind of not treat her like a baby, but she's always gonna. I'm always gonna have her. You know what I mean? Always gonna have her back. And I think sometimes as well, like her kind of saying that, oh, you know, like listen, you've got me too. It's sometimes reassuring, because again, it's like that sort of older sibling thing. You just want to feel like, no, I've got to take it on. I've got to take it on the gym. I've got to just be strong. But sometimes, like you said, look, man, like this is like new territory. So you have to, if you're struggling, it's cool. Like, even if people, I mean, no one's gonna be like, oh, right, that I remember that time you were struggling. But even if, that's so be it. Because at the end of the day, you can't. One thing you don't realize is that with grief, doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned so far.
It goes on, and there might be times where like you're cool, like you're getting on with things, but the times when it hits hard, like, or do you know what I mean? Like when it comes to anniversaries, like milestones, or just other things that you feel like they're missing out on, and I think that's sometimes what is the hardest part, because you realize actually and I think it's not what you said about you still got your life ahead of you.
Yeah.
I think for me, I struggled to accept that sometimes. I'm like, listen, I know this is a lot has happened, but the best is still yet to come. But when you're so deep in grief, you don't really think of, you just think, it's just what's gonna be like. And I know again it's a heavy subject, but I think sometimes as well when I see people who've been through it and they're talking about their stories, I realize, like, listen, it's not. Yeah, it's a tough thing, but like it will get better. And I know sometimes these things are quite cliche to say, yeah, but trust me, it will get better.
Yeah.
And again, it's tough, man, because I just feel like with our parents, it's almost like you just have. I don't know. I think before like 2014, I always just want to, your parents would just be there for everything.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. You think they'll be there forever. And, and that's why sometimes you tend to go easy sometimes, or you tend to coast a bit and, not try as much as things, because you think they're always going to be there. And then obviously it was that feeling of when my mum died, like that safety net is gone.
Yeah.
That safety net you have is kind of gone. And then it's like, now any decision I make or anything I do can have serious implications, because my mum is not there to, obviously I'm not saying that, but when you're younger and when your parents are there, you kind of can take more risks, and if things don't work out, your parents are kind of there to say, okay, cool, we can help you out, or we can sort this out. But then obviously after my mum died, I started to look at it and think to myself, like, now I've got to make sure that every decision I take is the correct decision, and don't be so irrational in my decision making. I have to slow down and think and say, okay, what would my mum do?
Yeah.
What would my mum do in this situation before I make a decision, And that's one of the biggest things I learned, like I had to mature quickly, because obviously my dad's not really been involved in my life to this point, so it was just more my mum. But you have to mature really quickly, and you have to just make sure you're doing the right things, and make sure you don't mess around, because I know we always think we have time, but after my mum died, when we realized that the time isn't as much as we think, and it goes quite quickly. So before you know it, it gets to 5 years. Then before you know it, it gets to 10 years. Then before you know it, it gets to 15 years. Like, time is really going.
This is it. Even like the other day, it's so mad that it's been 4 years probably since COVID.
That's what I was saying to my friend today.
Like, it's mad, and if you realize, what, time, and I think sometimes what I really think about is, time goes on. Even like, it's so mad that's gonna be 9 years. It still kind of baffles me, but it just goes to show, like, time literally goes. It doesn't stop. And I feel like with you as well, one thing I've kind of learned from my mum passing is that I want to be a better person. And I think when people are no longer here, we often think that not that we take it for granted, not maybe so much like deliberately, but again, like you said, you think you've got time. So if everything's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll do it later.
Yeah,
do it later.
Exactly. Or just
I'll
even
tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you realize, actually, you know what? Yeah, there isn't, not in a scary way, there actually isn't time.
Yeah, there isn't. It's not as much as we think. Yeah, if you want to do things and you just start, just now. There's no time like the present, So just start now. And that was what my mom tried to get me into from a young age, Like, don't procrastinate over anything.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't. It could be here today and then gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the saying, So but it's like you said it before. Grief is that one club that once you join, no one wants to join, but once you join, you can't leave.
Yeah,
it's hard to leave, know. So
exactly, and this is it. And it's almost like there's no sort of like off button. You can't really sort of switch it off, but I think sometimes there's something I kind of feel like about going through grief. I don't know, it makes you wiser. I'm not saying I've still got a lot grown up to do, but I think there's an element that has kind of made me have a new appreciation for life now. Look at things a bit differently, and I don't know. Sometimes, like, even amongst friends, I don't always want to be that person who's always like, in a group chat, you always got to take it deep, or like. But sometimes, like, you know what? No, I tell my friends more. You know what? I appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah.
Like, because honestly, like, literally, because anything could have happened. Even in the past 9 years, I'm so grateful that I've still got friends that I can rely upon, and I've got like family that I can rely upon, and it's hard, but I always feel like if I was the only child, would the grief be hard? I don't know. Would it be harder? I don't. It's just different.
Yeah, I think definitely for me, if it was an only child, it would have been a lot harder because it would feel like you don't have anyone to talk to. It would feel like that. I got my siblings to talk to because they've experienced the same thing as me, and they've lived in the same house I've lived in, shared similar experiences to what I've experienced, so I can talk to them. And because it helps that we're all close in age, we're all kind of can do the same things and find the same interests and whatever and stuff. So it definitely helped having younger siblings, because obviously when I cried, when they cried, I came and put my arm around them and held them and said, it's okay, we're going to be okay. But then when I cried, they did the same thing. And that's something that, that tells you you're not alone, because grief is a really dark place. You can really feel alone. If you feel like you haven't got the support system around you, you can really, really, really feel alone. And, and my siblings let me know that like I'm not alone in this, and none of us are alone. So, but yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, it's a crazy, crazy experience.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, when you said about feeling alone, that's exactly how I remember. It was the first day we found out. I remember I was just getting ready to go to work, and something just told me, let me just stay, because by then my mum was already sort of sick, and then we had got the news from my aunt that she had passed away. So I remember just obviously calling my manager at the time, saying, can't come in, and people start coming to the house. But then there's a lot of people around us, but it just felt lonely. Yeah. It just felt lonely, like, because I'm just like, I'm the only one around. Like, I'm the only one that's kind of dealing with this, and I'm not saying like people should all lose people, of course not. But it's when you're the only one amongst your peers that are dealing with. I know I had my siblings, but it still felt like, wow, like this is, and it's like both. And at that time it was both parents as well. So I think there was an extra layer of just like,
that's crazy. That's like, actually crazy.
Yeah, it felt a bit like weird. And I remember the first 24 hours just being so like, waking up the next day and feeling like, no, actually this is sunken. It's feeling rough. Like, what was it like for you? The first 24 hours, like, finding out about, when she passed.
The first 24 hours was 100 emotions were running through my mind, because obviously at the hospital where she passed away, they didn't have a morgue. So they didn't have a morgue. So they were like, I can't go and see her.
Yeah.
So, but I was like to the hospital, I said, there's no way, I need to see her. And it's crazy because we visited her the day before. We went to see her in hospital the day before, and she was talking to us like normal and everything. And the last thing she said to me was, make sure the house is clean. I'll see you at home tomorrow. So obviously when they called, I got my friend and my godmother came with me, and we went straight to the hospital.
Yeah.
And where she was, they had closed all the curtains around the bed, and like my legs felt like jelly. Like I literally fell, and my godmother had to hold me up and hold me. And then and then they pulled the sheet, and I saw her, and I was just like, I just lost it. I just lost it, because I was just like, this can't be the woman I saw yesterday. Yesterday she was talking, like fine, like normal. And it goes to show you how quick it can just change in an instant,
Oh, that's what's so scary, because like my mum was in Nigeria at the time, and a couple of days prior to her passing, we're getting reports that she's in hospital. But my mum's always been someone like, when she's in hospital, she always sort of pulls through. So I wasn't even too worried.
Well.
I was like, okay, maybe, but I remember just started praying like, listen, God, please just help me with this one, and then like I'll be good. I'll be, reading Bible, just kind of saying all this stuff. So I wasn't really worried, because I thought, she's always been like, because my mum had like sickle cell.
Okay.
So she's always kind of been in and out of hospital. But again, she's always been a fighter. So I've never ever really been worried about her health.
Yeah, that's what you think, isn't it? Yeah, you think this can't happen to my mum. Like she'll pull through this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I thought, like she had this for so long. She'll pull through it. She'll be fine. And then it's that feeling of like they've been like, when I wouldn't say defeated, but it feels like now they've gone. You're thinking like, yeah, I know she was strong and stuff, but why couldn't she just fought again one more time? And then you start to have all the regrets, and all the feelings of like, I wish I had told her one more time that I loved her, or I wish I told her one more time, I wish I held her one more time, I wish I gave her a kiss one more time. And then in the next 24 hours, all those regrets start climbing from the back of your neck all the way up into the top of your head, and then before you know it, you just, I didn't eat, didn't sleep, it was the first 24 hours were really hard. My sisters were crying, everyone was just crying, and it was just a horrible experience. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I don't wish that on anyone, man.
Honestly, I'm with you as well, because those and I think it's those regrets I had. Like, again, as I said, I wasn't really, not that I wasn't that affectionate, but some part of me was like, if I just a little bit, just maybe sometimes, I don't know what it is. I don't want to say it's the African thing, because sometimes some people can just say, "Oh, mum, love you, mum." Like, I don't really not to say I didn't love my mum, but I didn't like. It wasn't like all the time. I remember the last time, as in I saw her, as in not when I went to go see her anymore, but the last time I saw her like properly. I remember she was about to go to Niger, and I just remember just giving her a hug. I remember telling her I love her. So I don't know, maybe at that moment something subconsciously I was telling myself, no, I need to be more affectionate.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And like, so those regrets, it does kind of stink sometimes when I get into that mode of like, I kind of regret not doing this. But I think all in all, I think sometimes what's the struggle that's been for me is just coming to terms. Like, and coming to terms doesn't mean like, okay, like things are rosy, but it's just making peace. Like, and then I know you're still fresh, but do you feel like you've come to terms, or you're still at that place where you're trying to come to terms with it?
Some days I've come to terms with it, and some days I haven't. Because some days are really good where things go smoothly. I've sorted everything in my life. I go to bed and I wake up the next day and go to work and things. And then some days are really difficult because you get faced. I'm still young, so I'm 25. Like, it's going to be my 26th birthday in about 3 weeks. So. There are some things where something's happened, and the first thought in my head is like, yeah, my mum would know the answer to this. Yeah, my mum would know what to tell me. And then that's when you realize again, and you say, oh, but she's not here. And then you start to process it again. You start to think, like, I wish my mum was here. Like, she would have known what to do. She would have helped me. And that. So then some days I can't process it. Some days it gets too much. I won't lie. Some days it gets too much. Other days are good, but some days are not so good. But, my mum always said to me that there are going to be more good days than there are not so good days. And she said, just take the good and the bad as well. Take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. She always said to me, be appreciative of the fact that bad things will happen, because if you appreciate that, you'll be able to process it and deal with it a lot better. She said life is just not one straight line. There's loads of ups and downs and stuff. And she said, you get used to them and you'll be able to process them. So she just left loads of little gems and loads of little things that I try to implement in my own life, which really help. So I use that as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think sometimes when you go through grief and you realize how important all those sort of lessons that your mum taught you, like they just come at random moments sometimes.
Yeah, they come at random moments.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that I've sort of learned from my mum. Just not even just stuff she said, but just how she just learning stuff. Oh, like she did this for this person, and like things I didn't know before. I'm like, wow, this is so like fascinating, learning so much about. And I feel like, on this journey, even though like it's again that approaching, it'll be 10 years next year, but I still feel like I'm still growing. And I don't know, like for me personally, I see grief as if it was up to me, you'd bury your parents when you're like later on in life.
Yeah, of course. That's what when they have all these things, when you're old, when you've got kids, because that's another thing that made it difficult for me to process, because you start to think of all the what ifs, like, oh, what if she got to see me get married? What if she got to meet my grandchildren? What if she got to, you start to think of all these things, and and then it becomes even harder to process.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you've been robbed of your mum, of your parents seeing so many more of your achievements.
Yeah.
And you start to think like, and then you obviously that's when it becomes more difficult to process, because it's not obviously you're grateful for what she's seen you achieved up until this point, but then everything after, like marriage, kids, owning my first house, doing all these things, that's what makes it more difficult to process. And then when you do start to process it, you start to think back and have those moments again and stuff, But you just have to guess. I guess you just have to kind of know that they're always there. They never really leave, even though they've left you physically. They never really leave. Like, they're still around.
Yeah,
they're still around, and they can hear you. Like, they can hear you, you know. They might send you a message or they might do something to say that they're around, like, so they can hear you. Like I know that. So
yeah, it's the moments that they're not gonna be a part of, and even sometimes their own milestones. Like, you know, my mom, you know, she didn't get to see her celebrate 60. You know what I mean? All these things. It's just like, again, like when I do get married, when I do have kids, yeah, it's the things they're gonna miss out on, and it's gonna be. I always tell myself, like, I'm always gonna tell my future kids that, oh, they've got 2 grandmas. So like, because before my mum passed, my aunt was always. I always saw her as a mum, like she's like a bonus mum. So, but it'll be hard, like having to tell, okay, like, oh, why is the one grandma not here? And I know these. I'm not there yet, but these are just things I think about. Like,
they're in your head.
You know, the day I do get married, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how am I going to honor them? Like, you know, all these things, and it's like, yeah, it just makes it sometimes it makes it hard. And like, and I feel like one thing I've learned is, even though these things come, it doesn't mean like, you know, you're not doing well in your journey, and like, and I don't know what it is, because I remember, because I was about I lost, but yeah, around 25 when I lost my mum. I remember that time just feeling like, I don't know how I'm gonna tackle it, and even just like the fact that even just seeing you, like when you made that TikTok post about the lessons you've learned, I'm just like, this is crazy. I'll never be able to do this so early on into my journey, like, but that's the thing. Everyone's different.
Yeah, that's
some
the thing.
people it will take them time. Some people they can, you know.
That's the thing I learned. You know, I kind of I think the biggest lesson I've learned so far, you know, is acceptance is really key.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that sometimes, and then it becomes more difficult. And I think it's like that with anything. You know, once you learn to accept things for how they are, and what's happened or what has happened, you can then allow yourself the process. You can allow yourself to start the process of whatever it is that you need to do. You know, I feel like a lot of people just in life don't accept certain things, and that's why it doesn't allow them to start to move forward and really progress. So it got to about 7 months in where I started to accept and realize and say, like, she's actually gone now. She's not coming back. Now I need to start giving myself the time to really mourn and really grieve, so that I can start, because I didn't know where I was going to start. With grief, it's always a thing of like, where do you even start? Because everybody's different, you know. Some people will grieve by clearing out all their mum's stuff. Other people will grieve by just putting on their mum's favorite song or putting on their parents' favorite clothes or whatever. So everyone's different, but I kind of had to start to learn that, you know, I need to accept. I don't want to say accept what's happened, because I never want to accept that I've lost my mum. You never want to accept that. Exactly. But I kind of had to learn that if I can accept it, that she's not here physically, then I can start to allow myself to grieve, and I can start to allow myself to break down, to really be vulnerable, so that I can now say to myself, okay, cool, this is what I need to do going forward, and just take baby steps, you know, because grief is, like you said, it's a lifelong thing, you know. And there's people who have lost their mum, and they're now mums or dads, and they're now like 50 or 60, and they still probably break down till this day and still cry about it. What helps is I go to see my mum as well quite a bit, so she's not buried far from where we live, so we can go and see her all the time. So that helps as well, because sometimes you can just have a conversation there with them, and, you know, and it helps, you know. So
yeah, I like when you said that, because I think one thing that's hard is like accepting, because accepting means, for some, it's different for different people. It can mean like, oh, are you forgetting them, or not that you're forgetting them, but it's just so hard to be like, well, they're not here. And I think for me that was quite hard, accepting.
That's the hardest part. I think that's the hardest part.
You know, and I'm just like, it's even just there. But because I think it's accepting, that's one thing, but also once you've accepted, or I guess maybe made peace with that fact that they're not here, it's dealing with those like triggers or things that, you know, like, and it could be something that could be a little thing.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
You know, it's always hard. Like, did you ever felt that was quite hard dealing with triggers that if they did come up, or was it a thing where you were able to deal with them?
No, I felt it was difficult to deal with it, you know, because at the time I had a girl I was speaking to, and not to say I was being selfish, but all my triggers that came and they overwhelmed me, and I started to take it out on not just the girl I was seeing, but friends I was speaking to, other people. And it's not to say that I was being intentionally mean or rude or whatever, but it was just me grieving.
Yeah.
but people didn't see it like that at the time, because with me, I'm not a very open person. I don't really like to talk about it unless I have to.
Yeah.
But then I started to realize that if I don't talk about it, it will ruin my friendships and my relationships with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that my mum has always respected about me as a person. She said, I don't want you to be this man that thinks that you should be cold and you shouldn't have any feelings, and you shouldn't be able to talk about it, because she said it won't do anything for you. You know, you'll end up losing a lot of friends, a lot of relationships, and she said it's not good for you. So that was something I really struggled with towards the start, and I probably ended up losing more friends than I could imagine. Not because I intentionally just didn't want to speak to them, but it was more a thing of just shutting myself out, because I wasn't ready to, you know, I just wasn't ready to face all of that. But I couldn't bring myself to tell people and say I'm struggling. It's hard. It's hard. That's the hardest part, you know. It's one thing to say to yourself that you're struggling, but it's another thing to tell somebody else that you're struggling, because you don't want to be viewed as weak or whatever it is. So you kind of face those battles alone. And it was only until one of my closest friends, he literally said to me, he was like, I know your mom passed, and she was like, but you can call me at 1 a.m, 5 a.m, whatever time it is, and you know, and I will always have time for you. And that helped, because I was able to then, you know, I wouldn't say not necessarily vent, but it was just a way for me to talk to someone and just have someone listen, you know. Sometimes it's like, because obviously I know, like, people listen to respond and stuff, but sometimes when you get people that just listen, you kind of vent your feelings and you vent how you feel, and then before you know it, it's helped. It's kind of almost like therapy in a sort of way. So but that was really, really helpful for me, and it benefited me. And then I had a friend who, she lost her mum as well not too long ago, so she's in that phase that I was in, of where she's struggling to accept that, you know, they're not coming back. And it's more of something when it's like, now I can relate to that. I can tell her, I'm not going to be able to tell her what to do, because because everybody's journey is different.
Exactly.
But I can just tell her what helped me and what, you know, so I kind of see it as a blessing where somebody close to me has gone through something similar I've gone to, and now I can say to them, well, I know how you feel. I will know than most people how you feel, because I've been through something like that. And, you know, there's no pressure on you to do whatever. You can just, you know, just talk to me and vent to me anytime you like, and I'll have time for you. So, but yeah, I think I wasn't able to express my feelings at the start very well at all. And that was a big problem, because some days I just wouldn't talk, and people would take that for me just being blunt or not being rude or not wanting to talk. But it was just me saying, it was kind of like a coping mechanism, me just not talking. I would just hardly talk, didn't really go out, didn't really want to speak to anyone, and I lost a lot of friends because of it, because everyone thought like I'd changed and stuff. But I always say to people, you know, some people get lucky. Some people have 2 or 3 or 4 life-changing events before the penny drops and they change. But some people only get 1. Some people it only takes 1. Some people might have 2 or 3 or 4. They might have a health scare. They might have a nearby accident or something like that. But some people so it's 1 life-changing event and the penny drops and everything changes. And that was me. And then it was like, I was this fun, outgoing, talkative person before, and then now all of that's just flipped because of 1 life-changing event. And a lot of people don't understand that, because, you know, some people it takes 2, 3, 4, but once that life-changing event happens to you, it hits a point, and then you start to realize and you start to change. And that was my thing. That was my thing. It made me realize certain characteristics, certain things I was doing, like I can't do that anymore. I've got to change, you know. But not because of what's happened, but because if I want to be where I want to be and where my mum thinks I could have gone to and she wants me to go to, then I've got to change.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's quite a good. I like you saying that, because sometimes I think for, like you said, most of us, it does take a few, and I always find myself, like, for me, I always say, going through grief is like, it's literally opened my eyes to so much. Like, I not only do I want to be a better person for myself, but for my parents. But it just makes you, like, because at a certain point, like, again, I always feel like maturity doesn't come necessarily because we go from like 1 year old to like 25.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's the things that happen in it. Yeah, so, and I think for me, it's just like, you know what, again, yeah, I know, like, always kind of the old saying of life's too short, and it's made me realize that, but also it's like, we don't, I don't know, I don't say it in the bad, but we just don't have time, man.
Yeah, we tend to think that, you know, you can do things tomorrow. Before you know it, it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years,
Yeah.
and you're not really in the position you want to be because you kept saying you'll do it tomorrow, and that's like I was the same. You know, my mum died. You know, I said I would start doing this tomorrow. I would plan this tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow, and before you know it, just because I was I was struggling, and before you know it, it's gone 1 year.
Yeah.
And then it hits you again, and you were like, I haven't really done as much as I thought, as I wanted to. Not because I didn't try, but just because of that thing where I said, I've got time. And then it made me get comfortable, you know? But yeah, as you said, like, time goes really, really, really fast, you know? So it's important just to make the most out of every day you've got. Because obviously you can be here today and gone tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
Like...
Because I don't know. Because even I agree as well. I think sometimes I kind of found out as well where, like, I remember, like, in the first year, you know, like sometimes when you make, like, maybe whether it's New Year, what do they call it? New Year
resolutions.
Yeah, resolutions and stuff. Or you just generally make goals. I remember one time I wrote a few things down. And even the other day looked at it, I was like, I haven't done it. I ain't done. And this was like probably like couple of years ago.
Nah, I hear
it's like,
it.
you know what I mean? I think to yourself, like, I didn't, not even one single thing. Yeah,
I hear it. I haven't done that as well.
And then you just think to yourself, like, I get that time goes, but also we've got to give ourselves grace, because one thing that's hard as well is just kind of mentally telling yourself, look, I need to put myself in the right space where I want to do A, B, C. But grief is, it not as an excuse, but it takes over, man. You got to constantly just, like, sort of train your mind to always think, look, like, what would she want? What do I want out of life? Like, it makes you just think about, kind of give your life a bit of an audit. Okay, what do I want to do with myself? Because, as you said, 1 year will go by, 2, 3, 4, and you realize, okay, what have I actually done? So again, I think for me, like, I wanted to ask you to kind of, like, round things off. Is like, because for me, I always say to, like, this is my way of giving back to, well, not giving back to my mum, but one way that I feel like keeps me, her memory alive, just kind of talking about grief, speaking to others. Like, what's one thing for you that would you say, or if you haven't gone there yet, one thing you think that would be sort of your way of honouring your mum?
Just being kind to everyone. You know, not everyone in life has got something going on. You know, I work in the NHS at the moment, so I know. So I see people coming in with all sorts of problems, whether it's mentally, physically. So being kind to everyone is something that my mum always did. It doesn't matter if you were young, because obviously in the African household, it's like whether they're younger than you or if they're older than you, you know, they say respect your elders. Yeah. But my mum was a bit of both. She would respect her elders, but she would also respect the younger ones, people that were younger. So it was a thing of, my mum was just, you know, being kind to everyone is really important. You know, doing a kind gesture for someone can literally change a person's entire day. So just trying to be kind, and, you know, and also, I guess, accountability is a big thing as well. You know, it's important. The best way, I think, one of the ways to honor my mum as well is, you know, taking accountability for my actions. If things happen in my life, it's not anyone else's it's not anyone else's fault. It's my fault. And my mum would always make sure that, you know, you're in charge of your own life and your own destiny. So if you hold yourself accountable, it will allow you to grow, because then you'll start to say, okay, I can't make this mistake again, or I can't do this. And the minute you pin your excuses on someone else is the minute you don't grow, and you still stay in the same place. So being kind and taking accountability is definitely the main thing.
I feel like our mums, and obviously I know, I'm not saying like I know your mum, but I feel like they're almost like now, like kind of like guardian angels.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
And you just remember it's like they're guardian angels in a sense where you feel like they're looking down on you, but also just you're remembering their words, and it kind of motivates you to kind of live life in some way. But the thing is, sometimes you've got that one on one side as you've got the memories, you've got the things you've learned from them, but also you've got the reality of grief. So that although you are those things that you've learned and those things that they've instilled in you, you want to carry them on, but sometimes it gets hard where you have days where you know what, you're not quite up to it. You're not quite optimistic to take on whatever is in your way, or you know, because that's with grief. And I feel like one thing I kind of learned that with everyone is we're gonna have our stumbling blocks. But again, anniversaries, birthdays, or it can be a random day. Like for me, it's always like, you know, around this time of the year because it's anniversary. Then I've got like my birthday because my birthday's on the 10th of November. So I feel like she passed away not too long, you know, before. So I always get funny about that. Then it's like, you know, her birthday in July. So just different things, you know. But ultimately, I'm always just thankful that, you know, there's so much I can take from her. Like it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. That's why, like, you know, when I saw your, it's mad. I didn't even introduce you, bro. It's kind of crazy. I just jumped into it, but but everyone watching, this is Jeremie. You know, and yeah. So when I kind of saw your TikTok, I was like, it's crazy because like people don't do this so early on. Like usually, like within the first year, everything was triggering me. I even remember putting a post up on my mum. And someone asked me, how did she die? I remember just getting so getting so angry, like, why you asking me that? Don't worry, it's not their fault, because let's be honest, when people pass away, the first thing you're thinking about, how did they die? But the difference is you're not necessarily gonna go ask because it's sensitive. Do you know what I mean?
Topic, yeah.
So, but I think for me, because I was just so like everything was just fresh, so any little thing was just getting to me, like. But you know, I feel like again, I'm always big on like as much as, you know, this is a platform to share something deep as grief, but how they pass it's not really important. It's just because that again that's sacred to
sacred and personal
to everyone. And I think even, and I know you did mention it because I think even with I think it's breast cancer awareness month this month. If I'm not mistaken. So
that's what I mean. So.
It's kind of good to settle out there, but it's hard, man. It's hard, especially when you've got siblings and you have to sort of carry them. And I'm not saying that you necessarily ask for this, but always. Don't be so hard on yourself as well, man.
Yeah, that's another thing I had to learn. Like, that's another thing. You know, you have to give yourself credit every single day that you go to bed, you wake up, you go to work and do what you have to do. You need to give yourself credit for that. I know it seems small, and sometimes you think I'm just doing what I would normally do. But when you're grieving, that's a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to give yourself credit for every time you do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just about remembering, like, you know, you've got. Because the thing is, I always feel like no one's gonna like give you maybe some people might say, you know, well done. No one's gonna, but you have to kind of continuously cultivate that for yourself because it's hard, man. It's not just in terms of like, because I always say, getting your mind right or continuously putting yourself in a mind frame where like you're looking after your mental health. It's not easy. Like something that can just like literally tick you off, like and keep you off balance. But you got to always remind yourself that look. Yeah, we're not the only ones going through this, but we've got to give ourselves credit, man. Like it's not,
definitely.
It's not easy going through this at such a young point in our lives where I won't say we're not in our formative years, but there's still so much to
definitely so much to divulge into, and so many places to go. Like,
exactly,
your life's just beginning. Literally, your life is still just beginning.
You know, you still need them, but Jeremy, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you, Jermaine, man.
I know. I hope it wasn't too sensitive. I know, again,
it's all right. It's good.
It's a tough one, but
if it can help everybody else, if everybody watches this and who's going through grief and it helps you, then we've done our job, you know, and we'll continue to do that for you. So.
Exactly. Listen, I always say, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. And again, doors always open if everyone want to come on again and just speak about other aspects of your grief. But before you go, anything you want to like sort of plug or... No pressure.
Like it's nice that you're doing this, you know, because I don't see a lot of podcasts out there that talk about grief, you know, because it's a difficult subject to talk about, but it's something that I think needs to be spoken about because I think a lot of people go through it, but a lot of people struggle to go through it, and grief is always associated with sometimes, you know, people going through it and then not being able to get out the other side, as they say, or you know. But there are people out there, kind of like us, who have gone through it and are coping with it and, you know, trying our best and stuff. So it's good that you do this because if people can see that, then people will think, well, there's hope for me as well, you know. Yeah. Like I'm grieving and I'm going through it, but there's a chance that, you know, life will not be the same, but there's a chance that you'll be able, in this new life that you're trying to build, you'll be able to find some peace and some stability in it. So
yeah, exactly, man. Well, you heard it there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Much appreciated. And yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you.
I think the guy was was knocking them.
Lovely.